African network of religious leaders living or personally affected by HIV and AIDS has been working to break the 6 evils. That's stigma, shame, discrimination, denial, inaction, and misaction. This as they also serve other vulnerable populations such as the women, youths, and LGBTI+. Joining us for some perspective this Pride Month amid the crippling pandemic is Reverend Nokuthula Dladla of the network. Reverend, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. I want us to begin by addressing the impact of discrimination against many lesbian, gay, bi, trans, intersex and queer people, as many in this community are still not feeling, or rather they are feeling, the systematic discrimination.
Yes, the impact is very huge in a way that each and every day LGBTIQ people are facing discrimination in their homes, workplaces, community, including the church. So that has a serious impact in their lives, because now if you don't have your support from your family, the support from the community, the support from the church, where do you go?
So most people in the LGBTI plus community are also expressing depression or other mental health conditions because of some experience with discrimination and stigmatization. Can this lead to a higher likelihood of emotional stress, depression, and even anxiety?
Yes, it does so much. We deal with cases each and every day of people wanting to kill themselves, or situation where they are not able to cope, because if you are rejected at home, where family is supposed to be a place where you get your support, you get your being there with your family make life easy for you. So many LGBTIQ people are facing so much that we deal with issues of mental health, especially in the way that now, during this time of COVID, it's getting to be multiplied, because now we don't have anywhere to go. Everywhere people are rejected, and that cannot be easy for anyone. What I would want to add also is the fact that, when your personal life doesn't have a place where it can call it home, it becomes difficult for a person to cope with anything, because if I go out on the street and then I get to be in name calls, or like right now we are facing so much of the killings that is taking place, that has created so much fear. So that is also adding to the stress, to the mental health of LGBTIQ people.
Now, as you rightfully mentioned, people can also feel pressured to fit in with society's conventional ideas of being a male or female. Let's speak about the church's role in addressing some of these issues.
Okay, so as a religious network, we creating safe spaces, creating conversation in different churches to be able to have these kinds of conversations, because we have realized that one church has played a role in rejecting LGBTI people. We find scriptures are still being used against LGBTI people of faith, and we find it very difficult, because the church is now also a problem. Because if now we claim to say that we are a welcoming space, we welcome everyone, but exclude LGBTIQ people, then makes it hard to fit in. I from my own lived experience, I experienced that rejection from the church, because I am also part of the LGBTI community, I'm lesbian myself. So it makes it hard when someone gets to be told. I was told many times that God did not create me. I am an abomination. I am a demon-possessed person. And when you go to church, you want to experience the love of God, because that is what God had for us, to love each and everyone, not to love people and then decide tell others that they are not created by God. No one of us have created anyone. I was created in the image of God. You are created in the image of God. All of us are different for a reason. But when we tell us that they don't fit or they don't belong, then it becomes a problem.
Now, in extension, those who don't fit into this mold can be subjected to ridicule, intimidation, and even physical abuse. Just how widespread are these kind of attacks?
Actually, these attacks, some are picked up by media, some are not, are just happening in communities, small communities, or in communities where people are. There are a lot of these cases that happen, and some are not reported. Some, other LGBTI are very scared to go and report this case because then they get secondary rejection from police, or no one wants to really say we can help. So there's a whole lot of these cases that are going on. We see people each and every day who are struggling, who are suffering because they don't feel that they can be able to go and report the cases if the case is happening, if they get assaulted, or if they get to be beaten up, or rape cases. We have those kinds of, there's a whole lot of things that are happening within our communities, and it is very sad.
And just as a backdrop to that, even though there is this increasing acceptance of LGBTI plus people in society and a greater visibility, especially in the media and public life, many in this community still experience discrimination, like you rightfully said, even harassment and even violence at work, school, and in social situations. Let's speak about the community's role now in addressing some of these issues.
Okay. So the community's role is, it's a bit of a challenge, because now most communities attend churches and then they hear the things that the pastors are doing, and then they come back and say, God said, my pastor, I've heard my pastor said, you are a demon, or you are not welcome. God did not create you as a person. So people listen to what religious leaders are saying in their pulpit, and then they come back in communities and then they use that because that is what they have heard. For an example, a youth pastor who has 3,200 and something followers wrote something on Facebook about about this Pride Month, and said, God opposes pride. So there's no June. June is not for Pride Month. You are demon possessed. God created man and a woman. God did not create LGBTIQ people. So just imagine 3,000 followers who are listening or had to read this message. What then? They go back to the communities, and then they pick up whether the pastor has said this is wrong. Another example, a woman, a pastor also said, God created humans, but not gay people. So then it shows that when people listen to pastors and then they come back to communities, there's so much damage that can happen. If then that person who attends that church comes back and I am in the community, what is the reaction? They will be telling me that I am Sodom and Gomorrah, or whatever that they get to listen. So I think there is a whole lot of things that needs to still happen. We have spread messages, we have run dialogues, having dialogues within communities, but then at the same time, you see how we have experienced the death from February until up to now. We have 14 people who got killed, and people who lost their lives because of the fact that the hate that comes from the religious space, it is creating so much problem on the ground. Whether we know that we have a beautiful constitution that accept, or that include everyone. We have all have rights, but then at the same time, those are things on the paper. But because of the messages that we all hear each and every day from the religious space, because that is where the problem is, then it creates a lot of problems.
But what is the role of men, especially in these attacks that are being meted out to people in the LGBTI plus community. What does that tell us about the kind of society that we live in?
It tells us that, patriarchy, hate, that men, we see, within our organization, when we also tackle issues of gender-based violence, we realize that we still have a lot of work to do. And at the same time, we need to make sure that all get to be included in these conversations, because we cannot only focus on talking about, having to talk, like men always run away, sometimes because of how they were brought up, how this conversation about men, women, and how men need to behave. Men don't cry, men, have to toughen up, especially when you look at the cases of LGBTI, especially lesbian women getting to be corrected, because men feel inferior and thinking that when someone is a lesbian, they automatically want to be men. But that is not the case. And men had to learn to really sit down and start having the conversation that we are not competing with them. We are not competing with their manhood, but we want to feel safe. We want to be able, as women, as lesbian, as gay people, we want to feel safe and have to know that, you are our brothers, we live in the same communities. But because of the fact that when something is unknown, people make assumptions. Some men make assumptions that, I will show you, I will correct you, because they assume that immediately when I say I am a lesbian, then it means that, I want to be a man. No, it's not the case that people want to be taking men's role. So I think we need to be dealing with issues of patriarchy and the issues of how men were raised and how the societal attitude, issues around tradition, issues around culture. We need to really have to start having this intentional conversation in our community so that we can be able to deal with what is happening right now. Men are angry. I don't know why. We hear killings of women, young girls, and rape that is going on. So meaning that we still have a problem. We cannot separate and say it is women's issues or LGBTI issues. It is all our community's issues, including our men.